Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today it's Tuesday, so I'm doing a tag, although it's a tag that may not be a tag. This is kind of a response video to a video that Shelly Swearingen, whose channel is fantastic if you haven't checked it out already, did a little while ago, where she talked about her personal library and her kind of philosophy about the books that she owns. I saw Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, who's got an enormous and wonderful library. He did a version of this video as well, so I thought I would do one too. So there's a number of questions. It's not a tag, you don't tag other people, but it's, you know, something I think Shelley wanted people to start talking about and thinking about. So first question, do you have some books around, or do you think of yourself as having a collection or personal library? So I've definitely got lots of books around. I don't consider myself a collector, and I've said this before when I think there was a book collection tag video that I did a while ago, and I think I said this in that. But I do consider myself to have a personal library. So I have, you know, a lot of books, and those are books from, you know, for me to read and enjoy. In terms of collections, I do kind of have a few semi-collections within my library, if you like. So I have most, not quite all, but most of the 87th Precinct books by Ed McBain in like physical copies. I think I've got all of them if you count Kindle, you know, Kindle versions as well. And I've also got, you know, of the series, the pulp series that I'm reading at the moment, you know, I've got a healthy collection of executioner novels, about kind of 50 odd of those, I think. I've got, I think, the first 16 of the survivalist novels, and about the first 20 of the Gore novels by John Norman. As well as some of the kind of survivalist spin-offs. Sorry, not survivalist, the executioner spin-offs. I've got reasonable collections of some of those, plus a healthy collection of the Edge books by George G. Gilman, and some of his Adam Steele books as well. So those things are kind of collections, you know. I consider those semi-collections where I've got, you know, many books in a series, but I don't really consider myself to be a collector. Next question, what does a collection or personal library mean to you? So as I've kind of already said, it's a collection of books, or a library of books, that is there for my pleasure. So I don't buy books for any reason other than I want to read them. And it may well be that I don't read them straight away. In fact, typically I don't. But yeah, I like having books around that I'm able to read should I want to. So really that's what it means to me. It means having the comfort of knowing that I am never, you know, if I'm in the house, I'm never more than 10 feet away from a book that I could read. Next question, what is your personal library for? So as I've said, it's for me to read. You know, occasionally I lend books out to people, or gift books to people if I've got multiple copies of things. But really it's there so I know that I've got the book should I want to read it at some point. It's not there for any other reason than that. Next question then, where is your personal library? Is it contained in a single room or spread out all about the house? So right now it's in 2 rooms. It's in this room, which is my study, where I've got, you know, books on the shelves behind me, and it's also in the attic, which I talk about in my videos quite a lot. So I've got multiple boxes of books in the attic. Typically I do have a little shelf by the bedside as well, so I have, you know, kind of books I'm likely to be reading fairly soon in that shelf. But at the moment we're kind of remodeling the bedroom, so there's nothing in the bedroom at all apart from a stepladder at the moment. So yeah, those books are in here. In the past I have had shelves downstairs as well, so for a while I did have a little shelf in the dining room. We've got kind of a perhaps long-term plan to build an extension for the house, and if we do that, hopefully I will get a book room as part of that, but we'll see if that ever transpires or not. I'm not convinced it will. Okay, next question. How many books make up your personal library? So I'm sure I've answered this question before in another video, and I just went through all of my notes that I keep for the videos I make, and looked through all the videos on my channel, and I can't figure out what video it was in. And and I can't be bothered to do what I did before. I did kind of a rough estimate of the number of physical books I got. I think it was around 1,000. If anyone's watched that video and can remember, please do leave a comment. So I think I've got around 1,000 physical books, and I've got about 2,500 books on my Kindle. So I've got quite a lot of books, and I do. You know, when Greg, another benefit I'll read talked about his books, he didn't really seem to consider his Kindle books as part of his library. I definitely do. I do an awful lot of reading on Kindle, and I consider my Kindle to be a library of books in its own right. So yeah, a lot of books, 3,500 odd books. So next question, how do you organise your personal library? So for the physical books, I've either got them, you know, shelved down here, as I've said, and these are themed shelves. So these are pretty much all unread books. And I've got like crime shelves, horror shelves, sci-fi fantasy shelves, thriller shelves, and general fiction shelves, basically. So that's kind of how I order them. And I use a similar format for the boxes in the attic, albeit in those boxes I've got I've divided the genres between books I've read and books I haven't read. So I've got, like, you know, a box of crime books I've read, a box of crime books I haven't read, and so on. And similarly on my Kindle, I do that as well. So I use the collections feature that you can use on Kindle. So I have collections for the different genres, and whenever I get a new Kindle book, I will add it to the collection. And I also use, because obviously, whilst you can only put a book on one shelf, on Kindle you can put books into multiple collections. So I also, for example, have a collection for female authors, a collection for books I've got from NetGalley and things like that. So I can, if I need to find a particular kind of book, I make it a bit easier for myself by doing that. Next question, do you keep track of your personal library? So no, I have thought about using Goodreads for this, so creating a kind of Goodreads shelf of books I own, but it would be, given the number of books I've got, it would be a bit of an undertaking. I do keep track of where I've got multiple books in a series. I've got a spreadsheet that I use to keep track of which books I actually own in the series, so that I don't end up buying multiple copies, which I have I have done in the past. So yeah, that's the only real tracking I do. I think it would be a useful thing to do, but it would be such an undertaking that I don't think I've got the energy, if I'm honest. Next question, how do you decide to add a book to your personal library? Well, basically, if I want to read it, I buy it and it goes into my personal library. It's as simple as that. Next question, when it's time to cull your personal books, how do you decide what stays and what goes? I don't cull often, but I have done, I have done a number of times in the past, and I'm sure I will again. So it would either be a book that I've read and I have no desire to reread, and also, I'm kind of averse to the book. So a book that I read and really didn't enjoy, and I'm embarrassed to own, is a book that would go in my charity bag. And also books that so if I've got a book that I've bought that I haven't read and I've had it for ages, and when I look at it I go, actually I'm never going to read this, then that will go into a charity bag as well. And also if I've got multiple copies of a book, either accidentally or on purpose, typically those get at least one of the copies will get binned off at some point. But as I say, I don't unhaul often. I tend to hang on to books. Having in the past, I've talked about this before, I did used to have a huge collection of, particularly of horror paperbacks, but other things as well, which due to size limitations in terms of where I was living at the time, I had to get rid of. And it still pains me to an extent that I had to do that. So I think that's made me more unlikely to unhaul books. I do tend to hang on to them, but there are limits to even in the house I'm in now, which is bigger than the one I was in then. There are limits to the amount of books I can store, which is one of the reasons why the Kindle is so great. If I owned all of the books I own on my Kindle physically, I could not house that many books. Okay, next question, does your personal library have books you haven't read or may not read? So yeah, as I say, I buy books that I think I might read one day, I'm guilty, particularly on Kindle, of buying multiple books in a series without even having read one of them. You know, particularly if they're on a Kindle deal. So I've got, you know, I've got almost 2,000 books on my Kindle that I haven't read, for example, I think. So yeah, there are definitely books I haven't read, and realistically, there are definitely books that I may not read. There isn't. I don't think there's many books in there that I'm definitely not going to read, but there are some that I probably won't get to, and I suppose there probably are some that are in the definitely will not read category, in that I've bought multiple books by the same author or in a series, and then read one of them and actually thought, God, this is awful. I don't know why I bought all those other ones. So yeah, there's, you know, there may be some that I will definitely never read, but most of them, there's a fair chance I'll read at some point. Next question: what do you think about the idea of a zero TBR? That's an idea that fills me with utter dread. So what that says to me is, I don't have a book I could pick up when I finish the book I'm reading. But why would you aspire to be in that position? I don't understand that at all. That just seems horrible to me. I like, you know, as I said, I get comfort from having books around me that I can read, that I will want to read at some point. So the idea of having no books that I haven't read just seems completely alien to me. I don't think I can remember a time in my life when that was true. I have always maintained a healthy TBR pile. Some might say it's a bit too healthy at the moment, but yeah, I definitely don't sign up to the idea of a zero TBR. And the final question is, how do you feel about your personal library? So I feel quite happy with it, to be honest with you. There are certainly books I'd like to add to it. There are probably a few books, if I was ruthless, that I could get rid of out of it, but I'm not. I'm not under any pressure to do so. So yeah, I like it. I like having it. I like having books around me. I like being able to refer to books I've read. I don't, to be honest, I don't do that often, but I do it sometimes. And I like knowing that I've got, you know, realistically, I've got enough books probably to keep me going for the rest of my life. Let's see, 3,500. There's probably 2,500 unread. Yeah, I reckon that would probably keep me going for, well, certainly a few decades. So yeah, I like that. That makes me comfortable and happy. So that is my response to the personal library video from Shelly, and also to Greg's take on the subject. And I would say I think Greg's view of his library is very similar to mine. Greg's library is far more impressive than mine, not least because he's actually got enough shelves for all of his books, and he's got some wonderful books as well, I have to say. But yeah, I like having books around me. It's as simple as that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know in the comments, you know, whether you've got what you consider to be a personal library, or if you're a collector. Let me know the kind of books that you collect. As always, it's lovely to speak to you all. Hope you're all safe and well, and I will see you again very soon. Cheerio.